Because we care. Mark.
Yeah.
Complaints, we'll take care of you.
Well, I mean,
we want you to leave here happy.
Actually, I should say, technically, it's a line box. Like, what you make go all the time.
I know, it's like that.
He has
I'll take hands behind him.
yeah, good to see you.
COVID, yes.
That's very, very
Hey, stay away from people.
close it out. Oh, okay, good. We're going to go ahead and begin. Welcome to the Paddle Committee. Introductions.
Yeah, hello. I'm Mitch Barlow. I am doing all this because my wife is COVID. That's why I'm here. So I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine. Tested twice, but that's why I look like this. So we'll go with Mark.
Mark McGill, adjustment.
Shannon Big, Level with Pathways.
Shannon Easton, Michigan City Parks.
David Heinle, City of Report, planning. Craig Zier, Lake County Parks.
Floyd Long, Nursing.
Andrew Harris, City Council.
I'm Fleet. I'm also with NERC.
Danny Cobb, First Group. Scott Pruitt, First Group.
Okay.
Chair, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for January 6th, May 26th, and August 25th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next is the scoring criteria for the next order of funding application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that's enough of that. So, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to be here for the special 3PC meeting. And I'm going to wind through this, and it will go as fast or as slow as you want it to. So, last week I sent you all the information regarding the changes that are been proposed. We're going to go through that a little bit more in detail here, answer any questions that you may have or concerns you may have. The goal is to come to a consensus on all of this. We have to vote, we have to vote. But that aside, I think we're in good shape. And hello, George. Introduce yourself to everybody.
George Koppel, Union Township Trustee.
Now we are complete.
Porter County.
Even better. Okay, welcome, Mr. Western Porter County. So, let's move on. So again, we are at the starting line for the next NOFA here at NERC. We are going to probably get this out as early as Thursday, and it'll be about a month turnaround for our call for projects. NOFA meaning Notice of Funding Availability. I just liked it when it was called for projects, but who am I? So that is what we're looking to do. And all the applications have gone through some minor revisions. However, this one has taken a lot more of a meat cleaver approach going forward, and you'll see why in a moment. These are staff recommendations, keep in mind. So let's talk about the background of how we got here and why it's probably necessary. We have to kind of untangle things as we move forward in our next funding round. So let's give you a little bit of a history lesson. There's some in here that go back, some go way back, some don't go back that far. But the first scoring criteria was developed under the Transportation Enhancement Program in the 1990s. Mr. Benny Cobb's here, and he helped out with a lot of that. So I'm glad you're here today. Carry it forward. Good legacy. And then we had the first Priority Trails Corridor, which I'll call the PTC for short, was created back in the early aughts. About the early aughts is when I came on board. I just crossed my 19th year here at NERC just a couple days ago. So it's good to have some, oh, you don't have to applaud. It's like a birthday. It's like, I'm alive, thank you. But yes, it's been an interesting ride with different personnel, different rules from the feds being handed down left, right, and all over. And thankfully, I have enough of a history here to maintain some continuity. Of course, in the 2000s, we had a lot of growth in our regional trail network. And then the TE committee did evolve into what we have now, but it was first called the Ped and Pedal Committee, and then it would join the paddles back after the 2007 Greenways and Blueways plan. TE became Transportation Alternatives, PA, in 2012. Again, not much of a change there. Then the scoring criteria, here's where we get into the issues that we're going to be tackling today. The scoring criteria started to increase as the demand increased. We were getting oversubscribed every NOFA, every call for project. We were getting far more projects than we had money to go out. So we had to start kind of paring down projects, start assigning more criteria, start filtering them out a little bit more sensitively, and that did prove to be successful. And we did have significant scoring revisions back in 2018, 2 NOFAs ago, and it placed a lot more emphasis on multi-use trails in the submissions that came forward here, and that continues to this day. Our criteria, the way we kind of stair-step it, is that the trails or complete streets and those multi-use type of roadway projects and transit projects, they're going to see the first fruits of the money as it continues to filter down, and eventually roadways and new roads get whatever's left, but they still get quite a bit regardless. So let's talk about these proposed revisions and what they mean and why staff, myself personally, have kind of taken a bit of a chainsaw to a lot of what we've been doing over the last several years. Either you'll agree or not, this is a democratic process. So if you know me, I love the football philosophy. I bring the football, you guys kick it around, and we'll see where it ends up. So that's what we're doing here. So keep that in mind, is maybe some of these revisions might be a little, or maybe some are just exactly what they need to be. So with the PTC, the Priority Trails Corridor Map, there has been now an established core network of trails. Okay, these core networks are basically our trails that have been funded or built throughout Northwest Indiana. And we are now shifting the high priority corridors to those routes that are adjacent, connecting directly to the core. Makes sense, okay? We want communities to connect to our core. The big thing about our trails is to connect communities to the core, okay? We have a lot of outstanding communities that are still outside of the core network, most prominently Valparaiso. Yes, Dan's in the room. But we have some that are in Lake County. Dyer is not connected to the core, or St. John is not, or Cedar Lake is not. And so these are areas, LaPorte, the city of LaPorte is not connected to the core. So we want to make sure that these communities get first fruits, so to speak, of our trails when they come through, or at least have the best shot possible when trails are being proposed. And then we have the lower priority corridors connecting to the higher priority, and so on and so forth, till we get to the Kankakee River, as we all know, is a very low priority corridor, and may stay that way for infinity and beyond. Now, as for the scoring, this is where quite a bit of work has been done in eliminating a lot of criteria. We have eliminated a lot of that to help expedite connections to the core network. Okay? Selected criteria has been, some of it has been deemed inadequate to rank for many corridors that are outside of the core. And again, I will get into that in a bit more detail, revision by revision as we go along here. Okay? So let's talk about the PTC while we have it, the Priority Trails Corridor Map. And as it has grown over the years, it kind of became this, a mishmash of colors, not really any rhyme or reason behind many of the corridor selections in the sense of their prioritization. As it had gone along for years, things had been pretty much established that if there was a particular area, community, or what have you that showed interest, well, the priority would increase accordingly. And again, we don't believe that type of subjective analysis is best going forward with this. So, in any case, it was also kind of a giant mess to figure out what corridors were what, and as we continue to build out the network, what is that? So, I took the time to clean this up, and we have ended up with this, okay? And this went out to all of you in the email last week. Again, far cleaner representation of the priority corridors in this region. You now have an established core network. That is the light blue on your screen. The core network are the trail corridors that are either funded or have been constructed in this region. And there are several of those corridors that are kind of isolated from the actual core itself in the sense of a segment in Hebron that is built, a segment north of Westville that has been constructed. But as you can tell from this map, you have the core network. And what I have tried to do is make sure that all the high priority corridors are now connected to that core network. So we have the link to LaPorte, the link to Belleville, the link to Winfield, the link over to Dyer and St. John. Now, of course, you have a very, very dark green corridor that runs all the way to North Judson. That is the Great American Rail Trail corridor. That is the remaining visionary corridor that is eligible for funding. Again, all other corridors have been funded accordingly, and everything stares down from there. So you have the lower priority, the mediums, the lower priorities kind of coming off of the higher priorities, and of course, the Kankakee River speaks for itself. So there we are with the priority trail corridors. Now, on the very lower right side, you will see the numbers of them. There's 26 corridors that have now been identified cleanly, where people couldn't figure that out with the last map, including yours truly, as I was going through that. Yes, Denny.
For this NOVA, across the northern tier, Grand Marquette, there are gaps there now that will potentially be funded by the RAISE grant. So you're assuming that all of those are funded, and because I'm jumping ahead a little bit, so none of the no projects in the core will actually be given points. So those communities won't need to put in an application for a segment of that?
We assume that the Marquette Greenway is fully funded at this time.
Okay.
That is what we assume. Now, there might be some, again, you have to consider that we're trying to get the Marquette Greenway built within the 2026 time frame.
Right. I think
And this
some
is 27,
segments-
28 money.
There's some segments you're talking about maybe dropping out.
Well, they're dropping out, but they're picking up they're like, Burns Harbor will be picking up next level trails and going forward with that. And they have a very strong opportunity to make that happen. So
Okay.
that is what we're assuming with the funding this year. So, and again, Burns Harbor will be receiving money to start some preliminary engineering through the RAISE grant. So we're trying to kind of maybe work some of those things out. But and speaking with Burns Harbor again, if they do get funded this way, if we allowed it, they wouldn't get the money until 27 or 28 at the earliest. And that would be well outside of the window that we want to see it built. Now, next level trails is occurring, and we hope that they'll see the Burns Harbor project positively, and because they have already funded Burns Harbor and funded Portage, so they've already had a track record of helping the Marquette Greenway out, so we're thinking they'll continue that. So, but we have another note in 2 years. If we have to reassign and redo it, we can come back to the table then. So that's the way the map breaks out. The 26 corridors are now identified at the lower right. I have added a couple of them. I think, yes, there have been 2 additives from the original map. Number one is the Hessville corridor that goes right through eastern Hammond. There is a NIPSCO line there that they have in their planning. And one that's called the I-65 corridor, which would be a trail from Three Rivers County Park all the way to US 231. And that would actually cross as many as 5 east-west trail corridors if constructed. So the I-65 corridor comes in, I believe, as a medium. Again, it is going to communities where there is already a core route, and there is some long-term issues with that as well. We've already had some preliminary dialogue with NDOT, and predictably they're not keen on it. So more work is needed to be done. But it would be a great idea. We see trails built along expressways and other places. So that's the map. And again, we will revisit all of this as we go forward. We can revisit parts of the map now. In fact, I might just stop. We already took a question. I'll be more than, again, this is a fluid process. Are there any questions or concerns regarding changes to the priority corridor? Yes, please.
Well, I was just looking at 22, 23, and 24 on the rating system. Is there a reason why that was that way? Or
22.
high priority, medium priority?
Well, you have 21 and 22 are the direct connections to, well, one is to Westville where there's a core segment. 22 is a direct route from the port, which is given priority because of that. And 23, where's 23 at? That's Chessie. Chessie is going, again, the Chessie corridor itself is going north, not to the core route itself directly. It could be changed if that is your plan to go north. Again, we try to parallel these with the plans of the communities and the counties. I mean, if you would like that to be a high priority, I think that wouldn't be too much of an ask, only because Chessie does wind eventually to New Buffalo, where there is a core route. Is that something you'd like to see changed to a high priority?
At this point, I'm not sure, but I think that makes sense, it's hard to read.
Okay.
How much of it's built?
How much of it is it? Well, the Chessie is built in the city.
It's in the city.
Yeah, so there are two ways of getting out from LaPorte to Michigan City. One is to kind of go up to Chessie, that would take them to Michigan, that would kind of take them up to the New Buffalo area. And then that one, which is called 22, which kind of mimics the Johnson Road corridor that comes from Michigan City to LaPorte. So we identified that, but we can also identify 23 as well. Any other questions? I would just hope that this rethinking of the map just clarifies a lot more for people going forward, and that's the idea. And again, helps people understand where the priorities are. And as people submit projects, they understand where those priorities are. Connecting other communities into the core network. Okay. Again, this is fluid. If you have questions, if something comes up later, let me know, but we're going to get into the actual scoring revision next. Okay? All right. This is a word that I have to carry forward from our previous chairman, Carl Fisher. That Jan knew very well. Jan took over for the eminent Carl Fisher. Carl was the first chair of our PE committee back in the 90s and aughts and helped put this all together. And when he had decisions to make, he really stressed consensus. So we want to make sure that we do have an agreement in the room about these changes. Again, I have taken a bit of a cleaver to it all for reasons that I will bring up in a moment. But I just want to make sure that this is what we get to. Now, we are live, so a vote can happen. And if a vote does happen, one vote per municipal representative is what's allowed, is what it is. So, sorry, consultants, you're sitting in the right place. But whoever is a municipal and LPA representative gets to vote. So, and you included. So, all right, if it comes down to that. So let's move on. I sent this out last week. I'm going to go through each one of these one by one. I'll tell you why I have come why staff has come up with this suggestion, and we'll go from there. Again, if we have consensus, we'll just keep moving along. If we have contention, we'll talk it out. Okay? I did not bring any sumo suits. We're just going to have to do this as adults. Sorry. All right. Although that's on our budget, right, Floor? Sumo suits? That would be a great idea. Okay, fight. So, as it states here, I just took this directly off the memo I sent you all. Several questions from the previous application have been removed or changed significantly. The following detail these proposed changes. So, the trip generators within a half mile of the project area have been removed. The reasoning for this is the new trail connections in our region are going to be more remote than those that have been built in the more urbanized areas. Okay? We've had issue with this in the past with other applications that have come in. I could mention at least 2 or 3 of those connections to communities that I mentioned, especially Hobart to Valparaiso. Very few traffic generators near there. Same thing with Dyer, same thing with St. John. Again, we're trying to tailor the criteria to the remaining network, not to what we've already built. Okay? We're trying to really encourage with this cycle. Again, every cycle we could change back. There's nothing in stone here, but I want to make sure we get applications that really help expand our network. So are there any questions on this first suggestion? You're good. Okay. I know people that prepare applications will love this. Especially coming up with the school one, but I'll get there. The next one is, what is the transit access within a half mile of the project area? Again, removed. Fixed route transit service in the developing areas of the region is almost non-existent. again, we're trying not to penalize communities because there's no transit system there. We have had many a time where people have claimed demand response transit. That's not the same thing. And I know that there's transit in the port, there's transit in Valparaiso. I know there's transit in some other areas. I will say that other staff at NERC has said that this probably should remain on there. What is the opinion of the group? You want it off? Okay. Anybody else in agreement or in disagreement with this?
To keep it removed.
Keep it removed.
Yeah.
You want it off?
I want
He wants it off. Okay, Chesterton wants it off. Anybody else? You don't have to say anything. You can just simply stay in peace and everything's fine.
I don't think it's a deal breaker, and Elmwood has streets.
Okay, yeah. Okay, all right. Again, if you have a Walla moment, want to come back to one of these, let me know, even if it's the first one. We're keeping it fluid. Does the third one here is, I'm hooked on phonics. Does the proposed trail connect to existing on-road bicycle routes? I've removed this too. There is a lack of dedicated on-road bicycle routes in the developing area. Now, we at NERC are going to significantly focus on this in the update of our long-range 2050 plan. But at this time, because many communities do not have this type of network, we do not think it is necessary. David first.
I would give an example. We have several Fort County routes that crisscross the city, namely including the US 35 bike route from Buffalo. That's right down Michigan Avenue, so I think that should probably stay.
You're in agreement for staying. Denny.
I'm in agreement with the changes. Will street guides be done under complete streets?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. By the way, and I know there's a lot of debate here as well with complete streets because we also review those applications. That is not being changed at this time. I'm not touching complete streets. This is kind of where I'm focusing right now. I was trying to get this done. But we have an issue on the floor to put this back. Is there any comments to support David or to support Deb? Do we want to keep it removed for staff recommendation, or do we want to put back in based on David's comments? Jan.
Okay, what exactly are we looking for here? You know, I see existing on-road bicycle routes. Is that the specificity that we're looking for, or do we want to interconnect bicycle routes that currently exist, multi-use trails that currently exist? I would think that limiting it to on-road bicycle routes is detrimental to connecting or enlarging the pathway system through any community.
That's a nexus question. What is the connection between the two? And I have to say that much of the criteria that has been, again, this has been one of those things that over the years is like Velcro. We keep throwing more stuff at it, it just keeps adding on. And this is one of those things that I was like, okay, what is the connection? What's the real nexus here? What does it matter if there are on-road connections or not? How does that matter with trails? Trails are our interstate highways here for non-motorized. And that, from trails, you blossom an off-road network, theoretically. So that's kind of my thinking too, Jack. So, to me, it was a weak nexus. That's kind of like, Mark, do you have any
I'm
comments?
just trying to figure out, like, before, right? Yeah. So, like the on-road bicycle routes, you don't see a lot of them urban. They're not dedicated. You can have a lane, you could have lane stuff, but I'm just wondering from thinking these rural, that's a way to get a point, when you're trying to compete against the urban situation. A lot of these urban ones, I always argue that this was heavily scored towards urban communities versus Chesterton or Fort, like that. So I'm not against it, but I kind of see where that's a benefit. Like 35 is a route, it's an on-road bicycle route, and crosses it with a trail. That gets somebody off of that route connector. It keeps it.
So you see his point?
Yeah, I see his point.
Okay.
I don't know how, I mean, we're not talking about point value, obviously, that would be later, but I see
Well,
the benefit
yeah.
of it, I see the benefit.
What was the point value for that question?
I wish I knew. It wasn't much.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
It's like 5 points.
Like 5 points. Yeah.
Denny, question?
So if you have a project that's on one of the corridors, and the project connects to a corridor, and at the other end, for whatever reason, it connects to an on-street trail.
Yeah.
So this would be, if we kept this would be separate points for that connection versus a trail from here to there. Follow me? Is that what we're talking about? Or if you have crossing bike lanes?
Wherever there's an on-road trail within the project corridor is what it is.
So if you have
It
crossing,
does- yeah,
crossing ones, they would get points.
Yes,
It has to connect.
it has to
physically
connect. There has to be, as he was saying, the Chessie and US 33, USBR 33 is right there. There's also a very
It's like
significant on.
signed bicycle routes and all of that, that's what I interpret this as.
Yeah. Signed bicycle routes or bike lanes.
Now, are we talking bike lanes, or are we talking signed bike routes?
Both.
Because you can remember, even though it's not a signed bike route, you can ride your bike on any road.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
So I think maybe it should be limited to actual bike lanes versus a signed bike route.
So either bike lanes or a cycle track, either one of
Yes.
those two. Okay.
Well, what's 35? I don't think that's.
35 is just a road. It's just a sign route.
But once again, then you're going back to the urban situation, or Danny's proposing, you're not gonna have US 35 have a bike lane on it. That's never gonna happen most likely.
Right.
So, I would think it'd have to go to like, because aren't all the county ones, they're on-road bicycle routes?
They're all road, yeah.
Yeah, that's on-road.
And those have counted before, which again is very weak.
It's weak, but I'm just questioning, Danny, you're eliminating that option then.
You're saying if it's an actual bike lane, an actual
Yeah.
facility, painted bike lanes,
And the reason I say that is because even though you have signed bike routes, any street can be a bike route.
yeah, technically.
And to me, the bike lane is a level above just a signed bike route. That's just my opinion.
How does everyone else agree with that? It's kind of putting it back in, but with the condition that it's either a bike lane, crossing a bike lane, or a cycle track, something that's actually physically there. Does that sound like a compromise?
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like that because, I mean, what about, you know, I hate to use the term careless, that's not a bicycle lane, so that wouldn't be in the criteria, so. I think you just leave it as, you're all encompassing, yes, it does include all roads, but yeah, a lot of the roads, trails intersect, getting people connected to the larger network.
Isn't like the Dunes Cake Key, get down there, down on 10, those are on-road bike routes, you're trying to get to them.
Yeah.
Some of those are on there, so if you eliminate that option, then you don't get a point for that.
Right.
I mean, granted, they're high priority or low priority and stuff, but
So you're saying to put it back in, Mark?
I'm okay with putting it back in with an on-road bicycle route. Maybe it's gotta be signed, I mean, I get
I could
Danny's
say-
point,
I
I
could-
get Danny's point that any street could be, well, it can't be that.
Then it has to be a sign, at least a sign.
Sign, yeah.
Right? At least that's something?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it can't be like Cheshire can just make up, oh, hey, Calumet now is a bike route. No, it's gotta be
You're
signed.
coming where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
My point is, okay, we try to maximize the points in everybody's projects. I have a trail project that goes from A to B, and I have 6 public road crossings. What's to keep me from now establishing those 6 public roads as bike routes, and therefore garner more points?
Right.
You see the potential abuse there?
So you just put a max of 5 points. If there is a connection or one or more connections, it's a max of 5 points.
Or 3 points.
Maybe 3 points,
Whatever.
maybe 3 points
Yeah,
is,
but you
yeah.
can't get it for every
So
single.
3
That's a good
points,
point, Denny.
yes or no?
Well, we're gonna come back to that. I have added it back as, the only difference is to this one here, that we'll say sign. That there'll be a
Yeah,
physical
sign.
signature of that route, instead of just, okay, we are calling it a bike route. Okay, that's
Yeah.
not gonna work. So, thank you, David, thank you, Mark, thank you,
I
Dan.
think you can even make it, it has to be an ordinance or something. I mean, the town, we do a sign, we would put signage up like that, maybe it has to be an ordinance in the
Well, I
community.
think if it's
Denny, I don't know.
physically,
Like, that might be a way to do it too. Like Like, I'm not just wouldn't do this, but like, yeah, I could put Broadway and say, oh, hey, crosses 8, 9, 10, 11. I would never do that,
Says,
but,
like, it's, you either get 3 points or no points,
Yeah.
that's fine.
okay.
All right, so if there's no other, we're gonna have consensus on this, and we'll move on. So thank you all for that. That's the healthy part of this group, so thank you. All right, let's look at the very bottom suggestion. What are the number of individuals employed within a half mile of the project area? Removed it. An emphasis on trails connected to places of employment is not a complete picture of access, as there are a few safe routes on the trail that connect to these areas. Again, this will be a stronger focus of NERC in future planning projects. Now again, this was, again, thrown in there to kind of weed out the chaff, so to speak, okay? And again, many of these areas do not employ a lot of people, okay? You're connecting these communities to farm fields for the most part, okay? So everyone in agreement with this one? Oh yeah, I got a big oh yeah from George. That means we're moving on. Thank you, that's easy, let's go on. Okay, this is, I think this is the final page possibly. Is there a school within a quarter mile of the project? What's the current percentage of children within a quarter mile of that school? This has been removed. This question presupposes that the proximity of the trail will lead to increased walking and biking to school. Again, not a complete picture due to the condition of the local street infrastructure from trail to the school. And again, very few schools are located in these areas, near the new trail corridors, or at least unbuilt trail corridors. Any questions on this?
And even fewer children bicycle to school.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's very few children that walk to bike to school now anyway. Just putting a trail nearby is not, again, this was thrown in just so we could weed the chaff, because we had a lot of applications, but that kind of did its business. George?
I just want to make a comment.
Yeah.
For example, we have no city or town in our township. We have some large subdivisions, and then we have a school, but in order for the kids to ride their bike to school or whatever, they have to play Frogger to get across 30.
Right.
So that type of thing, and linking the other subdivisions or the other communities would be critical to an unincorporated area such as ours, and I think it would be used a great deal. If we could establish more opportunities for bike paths and ways to get across major thoroughfares.
I agree with that.
Yeah, you see where I'm coming from? I mean, at night, well, about 2,500 people in Shorewood Forest alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, Aberdeen's close by. And several of these places could connect, and there would be opportunities for kids to go places so parents don't have to drive their cars to get the kids there.
No, that's true. I mean, in the abstract, that is true.
And we have no sidewalks.
That's the problem. I mean, they can walk so far, but then they can't get to. Even if it's only a quarter mile from the trail to the school, if there's no sidewalks, that's still a very dangerous proposition. So that's again the reason why I left this off here. And this has been probably one of the most controversial inclusions. I mean, trying to get schools to come up with surveys, and Jake is nodding vociferously. Is everyone okay with this otherwise?
Just a question.
Yeah.
So like, for example, what's the school northeast of us? Valpo out on 2? Is that
Washington Township?
Washington Township.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's basically on 2.
Yes. It's on
So my question is, I mean, I'm just looking for everybody. I mean, if the intent is, does the bike trail go to a school or go by, like, right beside a school? Maybe that's a benefit for more kids to get to the school. You're building an 8-foot, 9-foot, 10-foot trail. I mean, because that would help, like, that project.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also where they have sports activities at the schools, rather, because there are very few parks there. And if those could be connected, I think there would be a great deal of opportunity for more travel on bike paths and walking as well.
I don't have an issue with it being removed either. I just was like, this is something that the group was looking at for. I thought this was abused a lot in the past, but like, if it literally went by a school, an 8-foot trail went right by the school. That's a benefit to the school and for that corridor. I mean, you'll get more people using it.
It could be a cleaner
Yeah,
point system, just doesn't connect to the school.
Yeah.
You have a small number of points,
Yeah, small
but
number.
not counting the number of students and all the things.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with the school corporation.
I was about to go there. So this should be, it could be reworded to say, does the project run adjacent to a school?
Yeah, like adjacent to the property.
And you get a certain amount.
Yeah.
But you don't have to worry about the percentage of children taking bag lunches. Yeah, go ahead.
Make it elementary and middle school, not high school.
Good,
High school
good,
kids
good
drive.
point.
Good point.
Good point.
You're gonna drive it.
Let me
I like that.
Not all.
I agree. I say that, and then I think about it.
That's another problem we have with some of our remote facilities, because we don't have all the facilities in our school. People have to get 10 miles to go someplace, or however far it is.
Not to mention we're trying to.
That's why a lot of freshmen don't participate.
I think high schools would be eligible.
I would think all.
Really? There's some.
I think even colleges should be eligible.
I include university.
I mean, because you have a trail that is going through Purdue North Central.
Encourage the opportunity to go there.
I just think educational institutions should just be blanket.
Yeah.
And if it runs adjacent, it has to be, it can't be a half mile
No,
away, it has to be adjacent.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has to get
It has to
you
be
to
like
the,
a property.
yeah, it has to be adjacent to that property, you can't.
And I'll call it education institute, or just institution of education.
And, like, what is it, like, right here, but maybe we wanna allow, I don't, boys and girls club, and stuff like that, that's not educational. It has to be a school. I mean, it is educational, I don't take that back, I don't mean it that way, but
I think you wouldn't call Boys and Girls Club institution of education.
institution of education, I like
That's
that.
kind of, I'll just keep it there.
Yep, that's, I like that.
And that'll cover primary all the way to college. Okay? This is cooperation. Carl Fisher's proud. If he's online, we're doing you, Carl, a big service.
2 years back.
So we'll come back to the points on that in a minute, okay? Now, question 5 is still here, but it's beefier. It is worked out. Done, Jim. What is the project relationship to the priority trails map? And we've added points. The location on a high priority is now worth 45 points, up from 25, to reflect the importance of these routes going to our regional network. Now, that's fine and dandy, but this might be something we have to kind of shave off to give points to something else. So keep that in mind when we go back to the scoring. We're going to go into the scoring after this, okay? So I don't think anyone has a problem with that, because we are trying to assign more weight to the priority corridors. And then we said, what is the status of design engineering for the proposed project? I have removed this. Many proposed projects were not able to achieve this threshold previously. So it just wasn't used often anyway. Okay?
My only question was
Okay, answer it for everybody. Who is that? Is that my phone?
That's gonna be
my
yours,
phone.
yeah.
Who's calling me at this hour? How dare you? I'm in the middle of a meeting. Get out of here. Embarrassing. Okay.
I
This
didn't
time
know.
it's your computer.
Wait, there's a question for, should you go back and add in, if a community did have the engineering done up front, it was 100% complete, is that a reason to have points for that?
Right.
And I don't know how often that happens, but.
Well, that's a question. You got the engineers in the room, you got other people in the room. It
I
was.
mean, the community has to make that choice to make.
I mean, if that's kind of a project readiness thing too, but what do you think of that? Do you think we should keep it in?
Well, remember, you're not gonna get the DES number until, once you get the DES number, you can begin the environmental process. You're not gonna get that state funding, so there's not a lot you can do
Ahead of time.
ahead of time. You can do some corridor planning, and maybe 30% plans and have an idea. It does make it a little faster, right? I mean, you're gonna be quicker to get to your environmental document, but
Almost nobody.
nobody does that.
You could design a whole project, know what your environmental issues, and then submit it for, you gotta get environmental.
Well,
You're
Oh,
there's some risk behind that.
Yeah, you just gotta go through all of those reviews, and if they change anything on you, you gotta put a pedestrian maintenance and traffic plan in, and take the risk of what you designed won't fit.
You may be paying more for redesign.
That makes sense.
Okay. If we're good with that, let's move on to the very last suggestion here. What is the motorized and non-motorized crash rate within a half mile of the project area? I've removed this. It has been very ambiguous since we put it in there, and not easily documented. People could see, okay, there's a lot of traffic crashes nearby. That doesn't mean a trail is going to reduce it that much. It's just the nexus is very light. Any other questions on that?
Well, all of our accidents on 12 have now moved onto our trails.
Oh, I see what you did there, Shannon.
14 of them being that.
Holy
I
crap.
think we should get a lot of points for that.
We'll talk.
On phase 1.
Okay, we got some talking to do. All right, so you did it. You made it to the gauntlet of the removals. I appreciate your thoughtfulness and your genuine feedback. What I'm going to enter now.
Before you enter, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm one who's going to possibly add, just to throw in.
You want to add one?
Possibly.
Go ahead.
Just throw it out there as a group.
Yep.
I think, Mr. Kirkman, I thought years ago we used to have it, if you created a trailhead parking lot, you created one, 5 or 10 parking spaces, there was a points value for that.
Yeah.
That seems to have gone away.
That went away.
I just didn't know if that's something in the group, when you have these new remote trails, you have to build a park, you need them to come. And so the urban ones aren't doing it. They're already using people's parking lots and stuff like that, Kmart's next door. But if you're building a whole new trail, a lot of these are out in the middle of nowhere, you need to have a trailhead parking lot. And see if that's what points. I'm just asking.
I like.
This doesn't really affect me, but I'm just trying to.
Well, it would affect people in my community.
Oh, yeah. I think
Because
we removed
I know
it.
they drive to, they put the
But I think when I did the
bike
Westchester
back
Street
to the
Trail, like,
trail.
we had to create a trailhead parking. We did.
Yeah, Denny, go ahead.
Oh.
Again, all of us want to try to maximize our points. So if you put it in, every project's gonna have trailhead.
No, they don't. They didn't. There's a lot that don't. You build ones in the
Project
urban.
sponsor may consider it. And then now you get into, well, what size should the trailhead be? How many cars? Should it have a restroom? Should it have a water fountain?
I think these are the very issues where it got mixed up.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you do 5 or 10, I mean, you can make it points value for how many, but I'll argue that I think a lot of the urban ones, they never did it. They don't build trailheads because they use all the existing parking that's around. But I'm going to be going
That becomes
from.
a decision for the project sponsor. The same as,
Right.
you gotta put a bridge over a creek. Do I put a pipe in? Do I put a bridge in? What do I do?
So the question on the floor is, should we add points for trailhead parking in the design? What is the group's, what other than Mark and Denny? And what are the opinions?
I think it might be a good idea.
You think it's a good idea, George? Anybody else?
I say
Jen?
yes.
And you say yes?
I agree with not a lot of points.
Yeah.
Not a lot of points, and I think it just needs to specify like 5 or more or 6 or more parking spaces and not all the other ones. Because
there's
it's an
a-
issue of access, are you providing
Yep.
alternative access?
Because some people may drive to one of these trails and then build and ride it, and then come back.
So you're saying a threshold, Shannon? That they have to have more than a certain amount?
5 or more parking spaces.
5 or more
on the trailhead,
spaces.
here's your point.
Yeah, you get 2 points. I don't
Is that what you're saying, 5 or more, Mark?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Okay.
That's a detail, but I'm like,
Well, somebody could just put like a one space,
Right.
and, hey, trailhead parking,
no,
look at me.
no, you need to have, I agree with 5, I agree. You gotta have something that's asphalt that you're putting down, and it needs to be signed. I mean, they should be signed.
Very good.
Off-street parking.
Yeah, off-street
Off
parking.
street.
Or what
Yeah.
is what signs in it?
Yeah.
We'll work on this thing, everything.
Not making sense, you. Offshore. So what I'm gonna do, oh, that's it, Jake left.
I got it, sorry.
You are sorry.
I don't know.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
So we're gonna add trailhead parking points, and we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, thank you, Mark, for that, appreciate it. Okay, now, this is for your eyes. This doesn't mean anything to us right now, this is the front page of the application, nothing changes there. Now, this is where we get into the questions that have remained, and I'm gonna run through them. Denny?
Can we go back to the first page? Number 3 is really important.
Yeah.
Go through some examples of how that's supposed to be scored.
You have elected to match your construction rate of cost of, okay.
First one is, okay, I want to match 30%. Okay, so you put that in there. Now, what about number 2 and number 3?
Yeah.
That's always been the part that has been confusing to me when we went to this style application.
Well, this is all across all the applications, right, or is it just this one?
Pardon?
Do all of our funded, all our eligible project categories have this? This is a general application.
I think it does, so this might be a Charles question.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, because Jenny, maybe correct me. I always had an issue with give elected request PE right-of-way funds at the rate of. I was like, what is that percent? Because the first one, I'm going to match my construction at 80-20 or 25, and we have that back in here. You get bonus points.
Right.
But yeah, the PE right-of-way one, that always convolutes it.
So that's something you ought to all huddle about,
Mhm.
make sure it's really clear as to what you want. Because I think on some of the applications, you got 8% credit, and we all know that bike trails are way above 8% for PE.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Let me talk to Charles to see where his thinking is on this.
just a question for clarification.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you caught that. Thank you. Go back.
And then another comment on
Yep.
step one,
Mhm.
you're talking about $2021. I think you want to go $2022.
Oh, yeah. This is an old application I worked on. I think he's updated it, but I'll make sure. Okay.
And then down toward the bottom third, does the project touch right away belonging to NDOT? So what you're saying is you want documentation from NDOT that it's okay to use their right of way, no
Yeah.
matter how much you're going into their right of way, right?
Right, yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Oh, wait.
Oh, you're not done, okay.
HSIP funding,
Yes,
I know sidewalks are being talked about being eligible. Are they perhaps considered expanding that to trails because of pedestrian accommodations?
in the IIJA. It might be,
So something to ask about.
yeah.
And then can we still get CMAQ funding for this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's a probable yes. And then the HSIP, I think you need to talk to Charles about that. So that question might not be applicable.
Gotcha. Actually, yeah, okay. Gotcha. Is that all you got?
That's all.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Only page one.
All right, so from question one all the way down, these are the ones that have remained. And again, I'm adding, to this point, I'm adding 3 more questions back in, 2 old, 1 new. So keep that in mind, we'll revisit those at the end. So the ones that I've sent in here, how does the proposed trail provide connections? That remains. All these numbers that you see, the highest number from each of these categories in the end adds up to 100. Okay, so we are bonus points. It's just 100 is perfect. And then we're just going to back out some of these points for these new ones. Okay. We keep the number of existing dwelling units within a half mile of the project. A lot of times that really hasn't triggered much of anything, but it might in some areas. We want to make sure that if a trail is built near a high density area, that is accounted for. Number 3, does the project include green infrastructure elements? This goes into our living streets project categories, so we want to make sure we keep those. Then the regional plans and policy support for local plans. We've kind of beefed this up a bit. 3 or more policy plans from 6 to 4 to 2, based on 2 or 1 policy plan. Those will have to be made known to us, obviously. Question 5, and this is the one that I talked about, the priority trails corridors map. Project on a high corridor at 45 points, and you can see there, is it on the visionary corridor, you can add 5 points to that as well. So if it's automatically on the visionary corridor, it's a high priority plus visionary. So you get 50 points maximum for that.
So can you explain, I'm not on the project connects 2 corridors, 10 points, project connects 1 corridor, 5 points. Are those in addition? Because, or is it just under medium corridor, 30 points, and if you connect 2, you get 10?
Yeah.
Well,
If a project connects 2 corridors, if it goes between 2 low, 2 high, 2 medium, it'll get 10 points. Okay. If it connects on a low, well, it says on 2 medium corridors. I think you're.
yeah, but can you ever get the high corridor? I didn't have time to look at the map. The high corridor can connect 2 corridors. Now you're getting 55 points.
Hold on.
That happened?
No.
Get 5 points for a corridor. Technically.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a typo. I did.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Project is on a medium corridor. Project connects 2. Again, I took this from the previous application, so there was an error there, obviously.
Right, that was the issue I had the last time I was trying to figure out.
So project connects 2 corridors. Project connects to 1 corridor.
Are those like
So-
bad points?
So we're just if it's like an isolated project and it's not part of the priority corridors, but it comes off of one of the priority corridors and it connects to one of them, you get 5 points. If it connects to 2 of them, you get 10 points. So if it's like if you have a trail that, I don't know, goes from the Liberty corridor up to the Prairie Duneland Trail or something like that, but it's not on our priority corridors map, it can just be an isolated segment, is what it is. It's not any of the corridors. It's not high, medium, or low. It's just an isolated segment. But it does connect to a corridor. That's what I'm talking about.
Right, so like my question is like okay, pick number 12 on your map, Great American Rail Trail.
Yes.
So that's a high part, it's a state visionary trail.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there, it's a high corridor, so it's 45 points plus the 5.
Mm-hmm.
But it also connects the blue, those 2 core networks.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to add another 10 points in because it connects to?
Because it's already part of a high priority. Those are for isolated segments that aren't identified yet.
I guess I would ask that be explained a little bit. I think
Sure.
people are going to try to add these points in.
Sure.
Oh, hey, I connect 2 corridors at either end of mine, so I get another 10 points.
I can do that.
Yeah, that's just my question.
Everyone else understand that? Jan, there'll be a quiz after this. Oh, he's not paying attention. Thank you, Shannon. Let's move on.
Question.
Oh, so go ahead, Jenny.
The word policies bothers me in P4.
Mm-hmm.
If the council passes a policy
Mm-hmm.
that says that it's the policy of the city to connect from such and such school to such and such park, is that now considered the same as local planning?
Yeah. That's a question reads.
Is that an answer or is that what?
No, does it, you said, does it?
Does that constitute
Yes.
a policy that is scorable under this criteria?
I believe it would.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they have a letter from a congressman where they have talked about an issue, okay.
It has to be adopted by a legislative body.
Formally adopted policy.
Right. It says locally adopted here. May include a locally adopted. You got all of the examples here? And pretty much all of that is board approved, even PTA, if it came to that.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Question 6, is it a legacy project? And it talks about a legacy project is a standalone phase of a project that has approved NEPA document, or the project or phase has already received federal funding from NERC. So this could be like the Veterans Trail coming in for Lake County. Craig knows that. They already have right away underway at NEPA, and there's a lot going on. So that gets points right off the bat if you're part of that. So that carries forward. Okay, partnerships and cooperations. Does the project limits cross municipal county boundaries? And then we're talking about involving 3 or more LPAs, 5 points, 2 or more, or just 2, 3, and then no partnerships is obviously 0. Question 8 became W. I don't know what happened there. I hope I did. I'll go back and see what that was.
Yeah, we reserve comment for number 8. The room reserves comment. I was like, W, is that a win? What is
Is Mark in favor of number 8? I'm going to be opposed if he's in favor.
All right, I'm just going to, you got to give me a minute on this. Hold on.
While you're doing that, the chair's going to declare just a little stretching break here.
Yeah, go ahead, Chair.
And the chair was remiss that we did not do the pledge of allegiance.
Oh, yeah, let's do the pledge. This is a good time to stretch, too.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
That's great.
And, David, you want to introduce yourself? Are you David?
No, Craig.
Craig Zanstra with County Parks. We already introduced ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Just give me a minute.
Look for question 14 while you're at it also.
Oh, that one went away, too? Well, that's information.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, couldn't read it.
Okay. I don't know what it was.
I'll just say you lost a couple of people, so don't talk about it now.
No, I mean, it was a partnership with, are there any funding agreements committed to with other partners? So, funding agreements.
Funding agreements, like Cheshire and Porter in 5, like they're giving 5% or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'll bring that up when people come back. Or when the chair comes back.
So is the meeting over?
No! You're like that person, you know, that's like, okay, where's the pizza? All right, I've already been here for 2 hours.
You didn't take me out to lunch, so I missed about that.
He's infected.
There's one thing I'm good at, it's disappointing people, so no worries. You know what I mean? I get pizza, donuts, quiche, whatever.
Why are there no healthy options?
No one will tell me.
He said no one's ever happy, so I'll just add in why there are no healthy
I
options.
veggie tray and they never would have. I'd rather not bring anything.
And when he comes to visit, he brings nothing. He eats, he sleeps, uses the towels, the whole 9
We
yards.
take you to dinner, guys.
He brings a different kind of things to the table.
Don't even go there, Jan. You're not humiliating me in public and on YouTube.
And I know why Denny comes here. It's for the entertainment value.
Well, we are the fun committee, okay?
We are social event of the week.
That's right, it is. I wish more people would realize that and say, oh, this is more than just a regular meeting. We chuckle sometimes. Oh, jeez, where are they here? Usually right out here. Nope, not today.
There are trees out there. Topple
Everyone
over.
was hit deer several times leaving the parking lot here. Everything good, Laura? Doing good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
How does this work in the minutes?
Break.
Intermission.
So when the video, I'm going to take the pledge and put it to the front of the video.
I can't do that.
Oh, our chairman's back. Everyone's quiet.
If it was a Zoom one, I'd be able to do that, but I can't do that here.
Oh, number 5?
Good to know that.
Oh.
And I got you I appreciate it. Thank you. Another time. It's a little warm this weekend.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, we're going to bring this meeting back to order. What I wanted to say is that the mystery question of number 8 was the previous question number 17, and it said, are there any funding agreements committed to with other partners? And basically, these are actual funding assistance from other partners, not just a letter of support. And these partners could include municipalities, advocacy groups, foundations, private sector, schools, or whatever. And that would stay in there. Okay, I think it was going to stay in there about 6 points.
Dollar amount?
Any dollar.
$1.
So somebody gives you $5, you get
Yeah. Well, obviously, if someone gives you $5, you're going to probably debate that during the review session.
Should there be some threshold on that?
So a partnership with 3 or more LPAs, 6 points. Partnership with 2 LPAs, 3 points, and of course 0 for no partnership. So
That's number 7.
that's number 8.
Number 7 is that.
Number 8 is crossing municipal boundaries. This is funding partners. It's the same point structure.
Ah, I got it.
Actually, yeah. So
On the fly edit.
you think you got your act together? You don't. Okay. So let's move on to question 9. We have the overmatch again. So we have greater than 30% overmatch is 5, then 3, then 1 for 20 to 25. Any questions on that? That has stayed pretty consistent for many years. What is the status of right-of-way? And the right-of-way is secured or owned completely. And we have right-of-way will be secured or owned within a year, and then nothing. Hello, Denny, yes.
Number 2 is impossible. The second one,
About will it be completely owned within a year?
it's impossible.
You
You
can't
have to
figure
have
it
your environmental approved before you can apply. I think what you're after is like utility rights of way that are granted by license or some other mechanism not purchased.
out. Okay?
You want to say something like that, but to secure or own right of way within a year after starting, it's just not going to happen. Environmental will take, you got to go through almost field check, which is 60% plans, before you can really get serious with your environmental.
I agree. So if you're looking at question 10 up there, the second part of question 10 says rights of way will be secured or owned completely. As he said, that's an impossible standard. So we can say right of way will be secured or owned through licensing agreement within a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you think that was during the process? I thought they used to interpret it that like after you got it all done, you're right away. It seemed like they had to get it within a year before you could start construction.
Well, see, it's very
Or have it- oh,
Yes, no, it is.
You don't know at the time you put in an application how many condemnations you're going to have. Whereas
You're never getting that.
when you're dealing with NIPSCO, if they approve you being on the property,
Yeah,
it can be done by a license.
by licensing agreement.
And so you don't have to worry about condemnation. And there may be other similar utility corridors, but I've not come up any of them.
I like
NIPSCO is
that.
the primary one.
I like that utility idea or something, not that just it's right away so we can secure it because you can't.
No, I'm just saying we're going to go license.
Yeah, but if you own it, you get 3 points.
That's what I mean. It's already owned, it's a public utility or public.
Already owned, that's a different story.
There you go. Okay. Any other questions? Social equity is the project, we still keep environmental justice concerns here. Is a project with an EJ 50 or more, less than 50, and then of course not at all. Oh yeah, look at that. Does the project impact any railroads? Thank you. Of course you're keen on that.
Motion to remove.
No interactions, fine. Always flagging.
Get bonus, you gotta keep that shit bonus. You don't have any railroad. You know how many railroads get bonus?
Well, if you get no railroads, you get 5 points.
Right, exactly. Rural, that's good.
Any other questions other than Shannon's?
You don't have a chance, the environmental justice map on your handy?
No, we don't have it handy, but it's.
Yeah. I guess my comment to the group was, that's why I was bringing up some of these other points. There's several in the rural areas that aren't gonna have environmental justice.
Yeah, but we have to maintain it.
Oh, I'm all in, yeah, I don't have an issue with that,
Yeah.
but you're not getting any in these rural projects if that's the intent.
But but there are still several projects that are possible within urbanized areas that are within, like the Hessville corridor would have environmental justice.
Yeah, most of them have it. All the urban ones typically have environmental.
That's what I mean. But again, they're not priority corridors either, so they're gonna probably miss out. That's how it balances. So,
Yeah.
but we can't remove.
No, I don't want to remove it. My point is this way add other things.
But I'm saying that it's not gonna be the criteria that tips a project to the urbanized area over a rural project on a high priority corridor. That's kind of the thing. But we'll leave the railroads one as it is. Yep. Nope, yep. And then we have local preferences. This is information only. If the LPA is submitting more than one project, please, that's for your own concern. That's for our own knowledge. If you're submitting more than one project, which one's a priority? And then this one, let me see how it starts. I don't know. That's again internal. That's not the points. So what I want to do is kind of go through the scoring a little bit with y'all. Okay? So this could be a very long process, so let me try to expedite things. We have, let's go through the ones that we have added back, okay? We have added back signed bike routes. How many points do we want to add to crossing signed bike routes? If a project crosses 1 point, then he has 1. Anybody else? 3? Is 3 a consensus?
Two's the compromise.
Two, is this for crossing the?
Crossing a signed bike route.
Fine. Two or three, yeah. Two?
Two for, what do you want, 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Craig, what do you want?
I'll go with 2.
Then we'll make it 2, okay? Moving on. Add school adjacent to, or institution of education adjacent to the trail project. How many points for that?
What is Jason? Quarterback?
No, right next to it.
Oh, okay, right there.
Adjacent, adjacent.
Like,
5?
No.
That's a little much, man.
2 or 3, I mean, again. Well, this is next to the school, right?
Yeah, it's very odd this will happen.
Yeah, right, so 2 points,
2 points?
that's fine.
Andrew's like, I want Well, this is a weedy meeting. So, here's the last one. Add trailhead parking, off-street, 5 or more. How many points?
15.
Wow! I think someone's coming in for a project.
I don't have one. When you talk about chuckles, I want people to come by and hear a laugh.
You got one.
I could be 2 or 3 points, so.
3?
I'd say at least 3 if you want to encourage.
Yeah. You get 5 or more, but based on 5 or
How
more.
about 3?
3.
So, what I will do based on this is that I'll probably shave a point here and a point here off of different things, like the school, the policy one, the partnerships one. I probably want to leave the party corridor one in place with 45 to 50. I want to keep that solid. But I'm just going to shave a little bit here and there, but nothing that is going to be significant from what you're seeing. So a point will be off here, and we'll just match it up to the rest. The idea is I don't want bonus points. 100 points is the absolute quintessential perfect project, which we'll never see. Everything will be, because as you said, Mark, environmental justice, you're not going to see that in the high priority areas. But that's what we want to keep in there. Okay, let's see. We do have this last wonderful slide.
thank you.
And there you go. Anyway, so
Question, do you need motion from us to for you to modify this as you see fit to make it 100, like you have the discretion, or is this just?
I think what we could do right now, Mr. Chairman, is a vote on the changes with staff discretion on scoring modification.
All right,
that motion.
All right, so is there a second?
Second.
So the motion, as I understand it, is that based on the input that we've provided today, that the staff will make any minor modifications necessary to move forward
With the scoring.
with the score.
Right.
So is that good? Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
You
carries.
guys are the best, really. I mean, look at that. We got a Carl Fisher. So happy.
Being the great group that we are.
Mr. Chairman, it is in your court. Thank you.
Well, that was, I thought we were gonna get bogged down on something.
Well, you gotta prepare for the worst, because I've been through the worst.
Is there any other business that needs to come before this committee? If not, thank you for attending today. Our next meeting will be January 12th, Thursday, 1:30.
One more thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Sorry. So the way it works, we're going to have about a month to prepare your applications and submit. Then Santa Claus gets involved. And we're probably going to be looking to approve this next NOFA come February or March commission meeting. So our next meeting in January is when we're going to really kind of get into the scoring. And we might meet ahead of that with all the applicants to kind of review it as well. But keep that in mind that the next meeting in January will probably be approving complete streets and multi-use trail projects for it.
Did you tell them the deadline and all that?
The deadline, I believe, is what? Is it November? November 18th. Yes, November. It's going to start Thursday, and the deadline is November 18th. Okay? So I go to England on the 20th, so I won't see any of those till I get back. But then we're going to have a review session probably in December with all the applicants, and that's there you get in the weeds, and you don't have to be there.
Okay. That's your one-on-one with the applicants.
One-on-one with the applicants. We're going to bring in a committee to review it as we had before, peer review, and then that'll get through the muck, and then hopefully in January we'll have a clean approval process.
Good. Sounds like a plan. Anything else? We'll come before the board. If not, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you're free, Jan. You're free.
I have another meeting.